press this. FTP is one of the most insecure form of file transfer because of the fact it shows plain text transfer. If you look closely on the FTP protocols, you see a response and a request, and that's the way they function. They just we ask for things, they give it back. We ask for things, we give it back. It's a point of control answers, and it is really easy to get intercepted, and then it could be intercepted and analyzed really quickly. As this, let's just say we're sitting in a middle man in the middle machine, looking at this, we already know what is their password, what is their FTP server credentials, and we are able to log in by ourselves and even look at stuff, right? We don't need to wait until they finish communication or even to kind of for them to extract a certain file or download a certain file. Um, So in order for us to do this, we need to follow the stream. In order for us to see what kind of information there is, we need to follow some sort of streams. And the easiest way is utilizing Wireshark to just let them read the segments. Each segment that they're gonna follow based on their kind of stream. What you need to do is just follow TCP stream. And this way it get rid of all the unrelevant information, and it brings you to things that you want to see, which is basically the data payload. And so that decapsulate all the information because of the fact that we have headers for different layers, and it get rid of most of the layers, and this is just the information that the application sees, the FTP server basically. So the user, the echo, and FTP have two different channels, 20 and 21, which is two different ports that they use. And in this we see that they are transferring what seems to be music.mp3, and this is the size, how many bytes, and we don't see where the actual transfer goes. So this is the communication stream. And if you sometimes if it's this one only have 33, I think. Yeah, see, it doesn't have that much. Yeah, it's only have 33 packets, so that's actually not a lot. We're able to just press on the plus button to see different streams, and I guess on stream number 2, they actually show what packet, like the whole entire communication where this is the actual stream itself. You could see this closely using the what kind of protocol is FTP data. And then if you press on that, you could see what port destination was it doing. Yeah. And the way that we could just extract this data or this file, which is empty file, is you just save as and just save it as a file. Um, the thing sometimes is that they don't always have the extension for you to know that this is an MP3. We just got lucky because of the fact that the file itself called MP3, but we could use magic bytes to determine what kind of file it is. You could use like this Wikipedia link, I think I found before, that just tells you all the signatures, and these magic bits are you're able to see based on hex value the different encoding. You could find out different type of encoding, and some of the common ones are basically the JPEG, which is GIF, and then these are pretty common. Talk about the text files, which is okay. There is a lot of different ones, and there is sometimes um, one kind of file have multiple magic bytes because of the fact that there's maybe different iteration of that actual file. This is really useful to know when you're kind of examining different packets or examining binaries. So this is another thing. It's not just for analysis or network analysis. It's for binary analysis. You're able to see based on the first few bytes what kind of file you're examining. And actually, this is the way that your computer figure out what kind of file you're looking at when you type let's see, when you type, oh, what am I typing? All right. For some reason, my fingers are, we could do file. That's how they figure out these information. Of course, they don't just give you that it is an elf based on the first view. They have even more different variation of binary analysis where they are able to tell you what kind of file it is, what does it fit for, and that's how these computers able to determine before they run something that maybe is gonna run to on its inevitable doom, right? Uh, so for this one, in order for us to extract it, it's easy for us to just press save as, and then we could save it as the same thing that they saved it as, which is music.mp3. And with that, we're able to see it's music.mp3 now. I don't know if it actually runs or if it actually does anything. Mm, yeah, it says not enough data, but you get the overall gist. We're able to open these files, and essentially, this is the data dump of a file that you see on any kind of file. So on a text file, if you do a data dump and you see an ASCII, maybe it'll show some of its ASCII, but its encoding will kind of obfuscate it a little bit and will show us different things. You see if it's like if we show data as a different kind, if we show it as raw data, this will change the way we see things if we just notepad an application or like we just do a data hex dump or something, then you will see something like hex dump like this, right? Um, there's not much with the packet analysis because this one just shows you very little. But for those who doesn't know Wireshark, Wireshark does an extensive analysis on their platform already. So if you click an analyze, you're able to see graphs, you're able to see all the different streams. For this one, of course, you only see TCP because that's the only thing that exists. So they already tell you beforehand what they have. So they parse through it and you're able to use different plugins. I'm not really sure because I'm not too good with Wireshark, but there's the filtering in which this one, if you type for a protocol, it shows you only the FTP. Okay, I guess this is also FTP TCP protocol. If you are looking for a specific IP, you type in the IP, and there is kind a regex for you to see all the different filters. Um, I believe, yeah. There is statistics to see endpoints. You're able to see how many endpoints there are in the different kind, and the conversation. In a very noisy area, let's just say you were to sniff your entire household, you'll see all these different kind of conversations between endpoints, and this will help us separate what devices you want to listen to or you want to funnel your focus onto. Uh, in a NCL or in kind of competitions or even in real world scenarios, you will have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, communication between endpoints. And I'm not talking about the packets itself, but the endpoints to endpoints, because with the emerging number of IoTs, we see communication on a microscopic level. We see your Alexa communicating to the web as well as your phone communicating to the web through different channels. Because all these IoTs that you have in your house, the Google Home, they go through different ports and they register under their own IP address because of the fact that they have their own internet wireless interface card, right? And this provides a great challenge for us to investigate if we do not know exactly what it is we're looking for. But in our case, for this challenge, it was really easy because of the fact they only gave us 34 different packets. And I think that's a nice little challenge to see. Now we're going to look at the rev. I already did before what kind of file it is. Oh, this challenge is from CTFl. We're still using this platform. Okay, not challenge 88, is challenge 379. Is this one? I think you guys will probably choose some of the other ones because of the fact they're all relatively similar. So I'm looking for another platform to kind of get questions from. I have a few options, but we could possibly. I had to ask if it's possible for us to steal some people's like CTF questions from different CTF challenge like CTF events that happens. But I don't know if I need to ask permissions for that. Yeah. Okay. Perfect then. I still want to see if we are able to like get some of the questions for like previous year NCL or previous events. Like there's a lot of YouTubers who do CTFs with their subscribers, and then I was watching some of them and they're all pretty cool, so I want to see if I could bring those along with you guys. So we are going to do this. I said that I'm gonna do it on Cutter, but since I'm on my Kali machine, I'm just gonna do it on IDA Pro, which I already have on my desktop for class. So we're going to use the IDA freeware, not IDA Pro, because we're too broke for that. And when you download this, it's gonna bring you to get this ref one. And if you run the ref one, yeah, ref one is an executable. I think you don't download it as an executable. I'm not really sure if it downloads as an executable, but you could always chmod plus exit, you know. Um, if we run it, ref one, bro. Okay, or it doesn't want to run. Oh, wrong thing. It asks for pin. By luck, it this is in Indonesian, but I didn't know that because I chose it out of spite because it says pin. Um, we could put in like random numbers, and it says, well, in translation, this says enter pin, and then this says pin wrong. You could, you know, like kind of translate this with Google Translate. I didn't know this was just gonna be in Indonesian, but well, look at that. Yeah, it actually is. I actually just saw it when we opened it. Um, yeah. So it's asking for a pin, and it just gives us a simple kind of you're wrong, you're right kind of thing, right? So we are going to put this into IDA, not Pro, but freeware. I entered it. I just pressed the default configuration. There's nothing too special about this. They already knew when I entered it. They already knew what it was. They said it was a executable, ELF64, and they gave us this platform in which I think sometimes it looks a little hectic and it looks a little pre-90 retro, but it will work. So the first thing to look at is the graph overview to see what it is that you're dealing with, and it looks like it's just one conditional because of the fact there's one big chunk, two small chunk, and they lead to the same box, right? So by the look of it, it looks like it's just one simple um, kind of conditional from this red and green lines, and then it leads to the same jump box at the end. So I'm just gonna exit that out with knowing that. Um, let's see, what should we do? The first thing is knowing these type of thing. This thing is called assembly language, right? Knowing assembly language is low key but high key kind of crucial. Just but the thing is, you don't need to be super like good at understand. You just need to understand it. There's different kind of operation in assembly, and if you ever take a class in it, that's great on you. I think it puts you ahead in some people, but you could also learn it without being in a class setting. Um, there is the few things that you should know is push, call, move, and test, and these operations, right? These operations are kind well, this one stands for jump, the Z stands for zero, but these are jump conditionals. If you there is a G, J E, J G, J E, J, but all these are just conditional saying if greater than, jump if less than, and a lot of it is based on these registry. So there's the registries are EAX, so we could actually search it up. Mm, we could look narrow down our search by assembly, not window registry. No, we could just search up register, I guess it's called. Okay, this is, I guess, register, not registry. Uh, it's based on these registers, and a lot of it is they're either pointers to a memory stack. Stack is the memory cache that your computer have in order for it to do basic operations. It puts it into different registers, and it kind of does its little operation there. And after it's full, it wipes it. If it's not important anymore, kind of information, they push it away, they overrides it, and this is kind of like your RAM. It is your RAM actually. And uh, a lot of programs they utilize the RAM in order for 'em to do daily computation and kind of things that they don't want to write to your memory, your hard drive, but they just want to do it for simple calculations here and there, substituting things, make sure your computer thing runs smoothly. Oh, and I was gonna explain this. And there is different kind of register bits based on the necessity and based on what it is that you're doing, the operation. If you're doing a 8-bit operation, they're probably just going to use this, right? Because these are just 8 bits and they're smaller. It gives them more things to to be able to use. And also, if the bigger the size, the longer they take. So they want to do things as fast as possible and without mistakes because they're machines. We do things systematically from up to down to read what they want, and we see that we don't need to care about this. Just scanning on the right hand side, in which is the ASCII comparison of what we see. We see this word thing that we saw before. We saw that they call the first thing that we execute the program, they call the pin. And also, when you get stuff from competitions and it's an executable, do not run it on your personal computer. I forgot to say that. Um, a lot of different competitions, they give you actual malware streams or malware, um, kind of like dead malware, but they're still malware. So they could take up some of your CPU, they could take up some of your RAM, and then they might not do anything with it, but it's still there. So do not run anything unless you're on a virtual machine that you have snapshots and you could just wipe that and just revive the old snapshot to kind of like get rid of the malware. So again, do not run any kind of thing that you do not know unless you know what you're doing. This one, I just ran it because of the fact, Hopefully there is no malware. Do not follow my stupidity. Um, so we see this question for a pin, and then we see that there is this parenthesis percent %d, right? This probably was written in C, because the fact that they use percent %d. But if for those who doesn't see that and say, "Oh, I know what that is," percent %d is often how um they format. Oh, not percent. What the vitamin D. Okay, see, you know, this is really stupid. Yeah, I think you know, printing formatting. It could be regex. It could be like how different languages like format their what they want so that they could input it. They could input it into a variable. So um um so when whether you code in Java, Python, anything, your computer needs to know what you're inputting onto the as an input as a kind of a keyboard format for them to know what it is that you're actually doing. Like just say you putting the number 1234. You could enter 1234 as a string, or you could put 1234 as a number. So, and this will affect how the program functions. If you ever coded in any language, if you try to add, well, in Python you could concatenate strings, but if you code in any language that doesn't have kind of normalization of concatenation, you probably have type error, and they'll say like, oh, you can't do that because that's an int and that's a string. You can't just combine them together. And then they're gonna call you like Matt Doofy or something. So in this thing in C, they want you to format what your input is. So we see that is percent %d, and percent %d stands for ay 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 stands for int. So that's good for us. And now we know the pin is a number. We go down, they scan by my just looking at what and knowing what scan means, like when you scan for something. I guessing they asking for it, and now whatever number we put after this is what we have it. I wonder if they are gonna reject like words. Oh, they don't reject this. So essentially you could put a thing, and it's just gonna be wrong because they're just gonna make it into integer, but it's not an integer. So we see they call the scan, in which they're gonna scan it, and they call this function, it's called check. Uh, Now this is the part where we want to just follow along what they're doing. So I'm just gonna double click it, and now we are in the function. Uh, it's a public check, so I guess this is the function. It just goes through, allocate space. This is what they do. RBP, if you look back onto the register thing, RBP is a pointer. Um, they keep going back. This is a regular register, a general purpose register, and they compare something to EAX, in which is this little valid thing. Now we go to valid, and we see that it is 5D 5165. So I guess they check if we are equal to this 51. I don't know what that is. Oh, okay. So I think the H stands for hex, and on IDA, if you right click it, it gives you capability of just converting things to different. If it's bytes, it converts to this. I don't know what this one. I think this is based on 8 is binary, and base 10 is hex, and I'm guessing it compares it to this 6 3s. It goes it compares it to 6 3s, and if we go back to before, compares it, and if it's not 0 and it's base of like C compares another thing, EX to 1. If it's 0 it goes here, if it's 1 it goes here, and then it goes back to the N, then it goes back to here. So the reference point they asking was that that comparison of the two numbers. See, we get this number and which translate to 33333, and we go back to the previous point, and then it compares the number that we entered in which they put into this variable with the EAX, which is the 333. They compare it. If it's not 0, and then you jump into one of the box. I guess you carry whatever left over in EAX, and then you test EX. So I guess EX have to be 0 for it to jump to, I guess here, correct or wrong. So it has to be 0 goes here, 1 it goes here, and then it returns and it ends the execution of the program. So based on that, it's just 2 jumps, and it just wants, at the end of the day, it wants EAX to be 0, and then so for us to achieve the register being 0, then we need to follow and have a matching comparison to the value before. So based on that logic, we're able to know that the password must be the 6 3s. The 6 3s follows the decimal, so it follows a number, and also it follows that logic of comparison. So we could maybe try it. See? And just like that, we crack the pin. However, we do not get a flag. So like that's kind of useless. Do we not get a flag? Can we just put it here? Oh, yeah, I'm not even logged in. So, um, guess anybody have questions about IDA Pro? Or well, that's not IDA Pro, it's IDA freeware. Anybody have questions on any of the things that I talked about today?
Nope.
Good. Let's see who's here. Um, yeah, IDA freeware is not the only tool out there for reverse engineering. There is a lot of different tools. The one I talked about, Cutter, has been getting a lot of attention. It is simple, and it's one of those things that uh it's self-explanatory, majority of it at least. Like and here there's a lot of different buttons, and this one is okay too because of the fact that it has all these tabs. It might get a little hectic because sometimes it just spew everything out. You could see all the different views like this heck views. I don't really look into this one unless you're looking again at magic bytes from the little thing. But in here too, you could alter how you want it to show. I think on view, mm, or is the option windows, you could add it so that you could mm, show the hex, a little bit of the hex or the offset in which the disassembler, the bugger. I, I think it was here disassembly. It just show it. Oh, I think you could change the. Oh, you can't load the graph mode here. See, you could change the text mode in which is different from this. I remember because My professor just talked about that. I forgot. And then yeah, like there's different things. There's a lot of different kind of shortcuts and hotkeys that you could do to alter it to your desire. Um, I guess like the more you spend, the longer you spend on any kind of program or platform, the more you figure out more things about it. The one thing that I've been getting comfortable at is Notepad++. I just figured that it is more useful now than any time because you could actually program in it and tell it to do stuff like word manipulation. See, things
Yeah,
like that comes with
you
longer
can
time. So
systematically change syntax of a multitude of entries and logs as well. It's
yeah,
very handy
I
in that regard.
it's pretty handy about that. I saw people doing that on Sublime because it's an IDE, so essentially it's able to do that. But with Notepad++, it was just I don't know. It has plugins too, so I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know. I just like the gecko, I guess. Any questions from anybody? Anything? Any comments?